Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining this live event today, during which we will discuss about EUROCONTROL and the exciting career opportunities we're offering. I'm Petya Staneva from the Talent Acquisition team, and today I'm here with four of my colleagues. So first of all, there is Jonathan Matthew, who is human factors expert and validation specialist at EUROCONTROL. There is also Annick Steen, who is technical operations manager, Benjamin Kremet, who is innovation manager, and my other colleague, Elena Miller, who is project manager for drones and new space. So you'll have the opportunity today to discover their journey at EUROCONTROL, their daily life, and some of the exciting projects they're currently working on. As you can see here in the chat, you can ask any questions you have. We'll keep them at the end, so we have some dedicated time at the end to answer your questions after the presentation. So we have 15 minutes at the end here to answer your questions in the live stream, but then stay on the platform because we have 1 full hour to dedicate to you after the presentation. And I'll explain you at the end how to navigate in the platform and join us for an even more interactive discussion in our chat booths. So now we can start. I see that a lot of people joined already and some additional people will join as well. So as I said, feel free to comment in the chat, and then at the end we'll get back to your questions. So here I will share my my screen so we can start with the, first of all, with the presentation. Just a second for me to share it. Can you just confirm that you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So welcome again, everyone, and also for those who just joined now. Today we'll discuss about the career opportunities you can have at EUROCONTROL in both air traffic management and tech roles. So first of all, for those who have never heard about EUROCONTROL before, or it's unclear for you what do we actually do, we'll start with a very general and high-level presentation about EUROCONTRol. For those who are familiar with EUROCONTRol, we will get into more details after. We'll get the chance, as I said in the beginning, to meet our four experts. What is their career journey at EUROCONTRol, what is their daily work, so you get a better understanding beyond just the job description that you can read on our website. We'll get into more details about some of the exciting projects they're currently working on, and you will see how we collaborate together at EUROCONTRol to achieve those projects. And as I mentioned in the beginning, we'll get back to your questions at the end of the presentation. We'll try to reply to as many questions as possible here, but of course you'll have additional time to join us in the chat booths. And again, I'll tell you at the end how to navigate. There will be one chat booth specifically for the air traffic management careers and questions you may have with our two experts, Jonathan and Elena. Another booth with our two experts, Anne and Benjamin, for the tech roles and any additional questions also we may have regarding their presentation today. And you can meet the talent acquisition team in two separate booths as well. But we'll get back to this afterwards. So now I'll hand over to my colleague Anne to present to you EUROCONTRol.
Okay, thank you, Petya, and hello, everybody. Let's start by a short introduction of what EUROCONTRol is and all of the really great stuff that we do here. So as you can read here on the slides, EUROCONTRol is a pan-European civil military organization dedicated to supporting European aviation. Now that's a whole mouthful, so I'll break this down and take it piece by piece. So first of all, we are pan-European. Um, and that means that we serve almost the entire European continent. We are an intergovernmental organization, and we have 41 member states. You can see on the map in dark blue, so to speak, that's the European Union member states, and in the lighter blue, that's the others. There's also countries like Switzerland, Ukraine, Turkey, etc. Then next to that, we are also civil military. And that means that we work together not only with the civilian airspace users, but also with the military. So we make the link. We act as a bridge between civil and military airspace users. So, for example, when the military doesn't need their airspace to do military exercises, they let us know, and so we can use the airspace also for civilian air traffic. So that's what we call the single European sky. And then finally, we are supporting European aviation. So Europe has a very large airspace, but many relatively small countries. So we have built a network in which we've joined all of the aviation players, such as the airports, the aircraft operators, the air traffic control centers, and we ensure the most efficient use of the airspace capacity. Europe has also a very dense airspace. There are many, many flights every day. Before the COVID crisis, we managed up to 37,000 flights each day. So that is quite a lot. Apart from these day-to-day operations in one of the sites of Eurocontrol, we also, of course, do other things. But I propose that we go side by side to introduce, because as you also can see on the slide, we have 4 different office locations for Eurocontrol. And we'll start with the Netherlands. So one of our sites is what we call the MUAC, or the Maastricht Upper Area Control Center, which is located in Maastricht in the Netherlands. When people think about Eurocontrol, or when we ask people what's Eurocontrol do, most people will say you do air traffic control, right? And it's true, we do some air traffic control, but only in Maastricht, only in this site. So and then again, also only in the upper airspace. So we are not controlling the air traffic in the lower airspaces, so not the traffic that will approach the airports, so to speak, but more the overflying traffic. And that goes over 4 of our member states. So there's the Netherlands, there's Luxembourg, there's Belgium, and there's a part of Germany, so the northwestern part of Germany, so to speak. And they manage about 1.5 million flights every year on average, and it's the first cross-border air traffic control center in the world. Then if we move on to our next site, so our next site is the network manager. That's the one in Brussels, in Belgium, the one where I work. And in the network manager, what we do, we have created, as I said, a network of all the aviation players in Europe. And in the network manager, what we do is we match demand with capacity. So the capacity of the European airspace is limited, obviously, and it depends on a lot of different factors that could impact that. So we could have air traffic controllers who are sick, for example, which will reduce the capacity in a certain airspace. We could also have issues in airports, for example. There could be maintenance on runways, closing runways, so that will limit the capacity in an airport. There could be weather issues. There could be big thunderstorms over France or anywhere, which will also limit the capacity. So on one side, you have a certain capacity in the airspace, and then on the other side, you have the demand. So that's the number of people who want to fly, the number of carriers who want to fly. So also that can change. So there's the regular flights, but there's also special events, like if there's the World Cup football in Budapest, and we know that there's going to be more flights flying to Budapest, or when the Queen of England died and there was more flights to London. So on one side the capacity, on the other side the demand, and what we do in the network manager is basically we try to balance that. We try to make sure that the demand does not exceed the capacity, and we have to do that because we need to keep the European aviation safe, obviously. We cannot have a flight depart when we're not sure that it will not have issues along the way, or to reach the airport of destination. So this is a huge puzzle that we solve every day, and we do that in what we call our network manager operation center. If we cannot match the demand with capacity, we'll take measures. We'll implement some rerouting or some level capping, or if all else fails, we have to issue some delays, so to speak. On the picture here on this slide, you will see the new ops building, as we call it, the new network manager operations center that we built and that will be taken, or will go live very, very soon. And next to the new building, we are also modernizing all of our mission critical systems that we use for the network manager. And that's a project that we call INM, and that's also a very, very interesting project for which we still need a lot of people to come and help us out. Then if we go to the next site, so then we are in Bretigny. Bretigny is near Paris. It's south of Paris in France. And there we have a center where we do simulations, but also research and innovation. So we need, of course, to evolve with new technologies. We do a lot of artificial intelligence. We work around sustainability, lots of research and innovation. But some of my colleagues will discuss about this in a later presentation. And then if we continue, finally, we have the site in Luxembourg. So in Luxembourg, we have our Aviation Learning Center, the ALC as we call it. And that's where we organize a lot of state-of-the-art training, not only for ourselves, but also for all of our stakeholders. To give a couple of examples, we have, for example, the FEAST application, which is what we use to assess candidate air traffic controllers, or the LPAC application, which is used to assess the English language skills, which is very important in the aviation world, so to speak. So I think that sort of summarizes what EUROCONTROL does. Petja?
Thank you very much, Anne. So now that you have a better understanding about our different activities and sites, we'll get into more details of some specific projects that our experts are working on, as well as their career journey at EUROCONTROL. So we'll first start with each expert's general presentation about what do they do at EUROCONTRol and what is their daily life. And we'll first start with Benjamin.
So, hello everyone, I'm Benjamin Cramet and I'm in charge of innovation for the Ops Room. So you will see that near Paris, in Paris region, you have the innovation center for EUROCONTROL, but me, I have a more focused area, which is the Ops Room, the network manager that Anne just presented with the new black Ops building. I love it, black is the new black. And there I focus only on that one, only on that Ops Room. And my work is to bring ideas to life in that room. So there I have to gather the idea, prototypes, and discuss a lot with the ops to invent the life that goes with innovation. You know that innovation and technology is there. It's a given. It's almost a commodity. But the magic happens when you find the way to use it best. We are in aviation, technology is everywhere, but how we make it count, how we make it useful, how we also get the ideas that are not invented here. So how we get ideas from elsewhere and make it a real product running 24/7. So the characteristic of my average month is making the link between the tech and the ops people, translating ops language into data scientist language, and the software engineer developers language into ops, so that we create great products. And the profile I will be looking at, because in my team I have a special focus on data science. So I'll be looking for data scientists and software engineers. And for my background, I was a software developer, but I'm not anymore. I grew up and I developed skills in data science. Voilà. Thank you, Petja. I hand it over to you.
Thank you, Benjamin. Don't hesitate to ask questions to Benjamin regarding the profiles he's looking for, and you have the opportunity to chat with him in the tech booth after the event. So now we go to Elena.
Thank you very much, Petja. Welcome everyone. My name is Elena Miller and I'm a project manager for drones in new space. I have been working in Eurocontrol for about 5 years now, and in the drone sector for about 8 years. Before this, I have been working for the Latvian Civil Aviation Agency, and before that, for the Latvian ANSP, Air Navigation Service Provider. My background, I have a master's degree in management. I have been a helicopter pilot for 12 years. And yes, I new space, and I hope I can answer your questions as well. So a little bit about what we do. The key tasks and activities revolve, at least in my line of work, about ensuring support to member states. So as you know, USpace is something very new, USpace airspace, in fact, and I will give you a bit more detail in my next slide. But indeed, we work a lot with external stakeholders, organizations, institutions, and that would go for International Civil Aviation Organization, EASA, European Aviation Safety Agency, European Commission, and of course, member states as well. We also support member states through organizing workshops, webinars, since especially it is a new and upcoming concept. We especially need to provide member states guidance material of all sorts. We also contribute to rulemaking, task forces, etc., depending on the member state needs. And so it's the characteristics of an average month. It can be very, very dynamic work environment. We have lots of missions. It is extremely fast paced. We can, of course, have the days where it's 9 to 5, of course, but you also have to have, let's say, self-discipline to get the amount of work done. We have different types of stakeholders that we need to work with, so it means that you would have to work with different types of cultures. The required profiles, I would say, we're looking for at least one or a mix of these and maybe additional ones as well. Our space engineers, our nautical engineers, UAS operators, pilots, ATCOs, environmental studies background also is interesting. Safety is extremely important. And I would say the best thing about Eurocontrol, at least for me, is the diversity, expertise, and friendly atmosphere. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Elina. So indeed, she will tell you more about USpace later in this presentation and reply your questions here in the chat, but also she'll be in the ATM booth just after this presentation. So stay with us if you want to chat with Elina. And then our next speaker is Anne.
Thank you, Petja. So hello again. My name is Anne Eckstein, and I am a technical operations manager in Eurocontrol. I work in the network manager in our headquarters in Brussels, in Belgium. I have a degree in computer science, and I work in the IT operations unit in Eurocontrol. I've always been very passionate about computers and IT ever since I was a child, and when I got my first computer when I was 11 years old. But I also always had a fascination for aviation. So when I got to join Eurocontrol 5 years ago, I basically got to combine both of my childhood passions, IT and aviation, which has been absolutely great since then. So when I first started working in Eurocontrol, I was responsible for the first line support team, who is monitoring and supporting the mission critical systems of the network manager here in Brussels. But in the meantime, I got promoted, so I'm still responsible, obviously, for the first line support. But on top of that, now also for the second line application support of the mission critical systems, for the office IT support, and for the administrative operational support team. Now, if we focus on first and second line support, I've listed our main tasks here on this slide. So my teams perform 24/7 duties in shift and on call, and they monitor the mission critical systems. The systems will give alarms when something's wrong, and then the first line support team will act on that. They will try to fix the issue, preferably, of course, before there is a business impact. Sometimes they can't fix the issue, and then they will escalate it through the rest of the IT support organization. So first to second line, and if all else fails, also to third line support. Now, in case of major incidents or crisis, we also do coordination and communication. So incident and crisis management, and that's where myself and my fellow technical operations manager come in. So we also work 24/7. We work on call, And we also get to decide, for example, whether special measures or disaster recovery plans need to be activated, for example. And that then brings us to business continuity, which is the next task on our list. So we also work a lot on developing and testing disaster recovery plans. We have contingency sites on different locations in France and in Belgium, and we perform regularly rehearsals to test the plans and to make sure that we can recover as quickly and as smoothly as possible in case that there would be a disaster. And finally, we of course also work on evolving and on modernizing our monitoring systems. And as new applications are getting developed, we also make sure that when they are put in operations, that they can be monitored and that we can integrate them, so to speak, in our support organization. It's one of those projects that I will come back on later in this presentation. What I like most about this work is, I guess, is the adrenaline that comes from the unexpected events. So the work is quite unpredictable. No 2 days are ever the same. Often when I arrive in the office in the morning, I have no clue about what I will be doing the rest of the day. But I find it very, very rewarding to be able to directly contribute to the mission of the network manager, to the safety of the European aviation, if you want. And then people that are working in my team, so I'm looking for profiles, me and the rest of the IT operations organization. We are looking for profiles like system engineers, network engineers, hosting and storage engineers, cloud specialists, DevSecOps specialists or experts. We do some developing, some scripting, and all kinds of IT jobs like that. Back to you, Petja.
Thank you, So indeed, if you have questions about IT at EUROCONTROL and the tech roles we are currently offering, Anne will be in the tech booth together with Benjamin, so she can answer partly your questions here, but also chat with you after the event. So thank you, Anne. Now we'll go to Jonathan for his presentation.
Hi, my name is Jonathan. So I'm a validation and human factor specialist, and I've joined EUROCONTROL pretty recently. It was 1 year ago. Before that, I was working as a subcontractor for Airbus. I was working on cockpit design, and I was also working for the French air navigation service provider. So validation and human factor specialist. So what does it mean? In aviation, we are always proposing some innovation, some new solutions to improve the service, to improve how airlines, airports, are operating. And especially in EUROCONTROL, we are really striving to improve the performance of the service in Europe, and in the end, to provide a better quality of service for the passengers, like you and me. And as you may know, in aviation, we want to perform as efficiently as possible, and we want to guarantee a certain level of safety. And that's why every innovation has to be tested before being deployed in operation. That's super important. And that's exactly what we are doing in validation. So we are assessing every new solution, every innovation in terms of operational benefits. So for example, is it allowing to decrease fuel consumption, improve flight delay, and so on. So to do that, we are performing what we call simulation. So we are simulating realistic environment, realistic conditions, realistic scenarios, and we are testing the solution in this condition, and we analyze the output data of these simulations to conclude on is it better or not, and is the solution efficient or not, and how can we improve it to make it better. The human factor part is quite similar because we are also assessing, but we are mainly focused on the performance of the human operator, for example, an air traffic controller. And to summarize, we are assessing how ergonomics a solution is. So basically how the operator, the human operator, is performing with our solution. Is it optimized or not? Looking at very related aspects that are very related to humans, such as the operator stress, the fatigue, the trust in the system, the need of training, and so on. I could continue forever. In addition to these two activities, I have the chance also to be project leader on innovation projects. We talk about it a little bit later. And what I'm doing is mainly define the concept with all the stakeholders involved. So it can be airlines, airports, again, air traffic controller. We are discussing a lot to define the concept, to adjust it based on their needs. And I'm doing a lot of coordination, of course. internal coordination with the teams, so software developers and data scientists, a lot of data scientists specialized in artificial intelligence, and also external coordination with all the stakeholders, all the partners. A lot of communication also, obviously, to synchronize all these people. I tried to summarize an average month. For me, could be there will be a lot of interviews with users, with stakeholders to better understand their needs, their current issues, how they are doing their task, and how we can improve their task and their issues. Then on the validation part, we will have to think about how we could evaluate a solution. So we will create an experimental protocol. We will then do the evaluation, the simulation, and of course, we will analyze the data out of it, and we will provide a report. And another thing super important for the project lead part is to have regular meetings with all your stakeholders. So to share the progress of the project, to get some feedback from them, to adjust the solution, to define the new problem they could face, and so on. In terms of profile, this kind of job can be done, I would say, mainly by an aviation engineer, but not only. It can be a general engineer. Personally, I was not specialized in aviation during my studies, so we are looking for this kind of profile. But the most important thing, I think, is the skills you can have. I think it's super important to have a critical mindset and being good at solving problem, because as a project leader and as a validation specialist, you will face a lot of problem and you will have to find the appropriate solution to get over it. Also, communication can be super important. As I said, you have a lot of coordination to do, internal, external. And I think academic background can be a huge advantage because it gives you a mindset to work with. And for example, if you are doing a PhD, that could be a great opportunity to join EUROCONTROL. Before my time is up, a little word about what I like. It's because, you know, we can work on a huge variety of projects, and that is amazing. That really EUROCONTROL is like the centerpiece of European aviation, and you will have the opportunity to work on so many projects and so many people from the aviation domain. So that's really what I enjoy. And that's it for my part.
Thank you very much, Jonathan. You'll have the opportunity to meet him in the ATM booth together with Elena. They will answer your specific questions in this domain and also the job opportunities we have there. So as you can see, we have quite a variety of roles at EUROCONTROL, and you can also evolve and progress in your career if you join our organization. Now you'll have the opportunity to see in more detail some of the exciting projects we're currently working on, and how do we collaborate together as a team at EUROCONTROL to make those projects a success. The first project we will cover here will be presented by Jonathan and Benjamin. It's called the project FADE.
Yeah, hey, it's me again. So I will talk to you about FADE, which is Forecast of Air Traffic Flow Management Delay Evolution. So before explaining the project in detail, a short introduction. As you may know, in EUROCONTROL, we are involved in a lot of innovation programs. Sometimes it can be very huge, very long, very heavy, such as CESAR, Single European Sky ATM research. But we are also doing very quick innovation to answer to very concrete issues experienced by our partners. So FADE was part of this initiative, where the idea is to start with a problem statement, think about it, think about how to provide a support, and develop a working solution, a working platform within only 6 months. That's the idea. And then we ask our partners to test the solution in their operation during few months. And depending on their feedback, if it's positive, we go for a deployment. If it's not positive, we give up. So concretely, FADE started with Air France coming to us, and they stated this problem. So we don't have the air traffic flow management delay and how it will evolve with time. So to make sure everyone can follow, a little bit of explanation about what is ATFM delay. So as Anne explained a little bit, we have this balance between the demand. The demand is the number of flights that want to fly in the sky, and the capacity. And when capacity is the number of flights that air traffic control can handle. So when the demand exceeds the capacity, we have to apply some delay to some flights, so they will be stuck on ground, so we can spread a little bit the flow. And what is important to understand is that the delay can evolve with time. So that's what I try to illustrate in the timeline below. You can see that the initial time of departure is the time t, let's say, and let's say 2 hours before the flight, we expect 60 minutes of delay. But because we are trying to optimize dynamically the delays, maybe it will get better with time. So actually, a little bit later, 1 hour before the flight, the delay is announced as 40 minutes. And maybe it will get even better, and 30 minutes before the flight, the delay will be only 20 minutes. So as you can see, there is a dynamic in the evolution of the delay, of the expected delay. And now, in this example, it is decreasing. So what we did in Brittany, if you can go to the next slide, in the EUROCONTROL Innovation Hub, so in Brittany, we got the pitch by Air France, the statement, the problem statement, and then we've made a call for interest. So basically, we asked to all the partners, so all the other airlines mainly, if they want to participate. They raised their hand, and we got a group of project members. After that, we did the scoping. Basically, we are defining what will be done during the project and how we will do it, and also what will be the limit of the project. Then we actually did the development of the solution, and what it is a machine learning model that was aiming at learning the relationship between some predictors. Here it was airlines, airport, reason of regulation, and the ATFM delay. It has been trained on historical data, and now it is providing a prediction of the amount of delay, so in minutes, but also a prediction of the evolution, and more precisely, the likelihood of decreasing the delay. So as you can see, we are predicting, you will have 40-minute delay, and maybe we think that it will decrease. So with this model done, it was ready. So we have done some validation. We have asked some stakeholders, some airlines, to try the tool in operation, and we got some very positive feedback from the users. And the performance, because we're also assessing the actual performance of the artificial intelligence model, it was very good. So basically, we were right 75% of the time. So based on that, we've made the decision to go and to deploy this tool in operation, because we think it can bring a lot of benefits. And this part is done with a team in Brussels, and that's where I will stop my part, because this story will be told by Benjamin.
So this is where the story starts for me. So you see Jonathan and his team in Paris. So they worked on validating the business value. So that is clear. There is a problem, there is a solution. Now starts another type of business, which is how can we make this prototype, because what we get is a prototype, into a product. What are the differences? The differences is a product has to run 24/7. Well, who is in charge? Who to call when it fails? What part of the system can go wrong, and how do we protect the system against that? So we go from the business value, and the business value that is demonstrated, into something that is very much manageable, something that is controlled and served, so we can, without big problem, stating no problem, these things will work 24/7. No, we will be only able to do it during office hours, and if it breaks down on the Friday evening, you will have to wait for the Monday morning things to be restarted. So there we go with full infrastructure, and we leverage technology like cloud monitoring, and also software development, ML engineering, which is a sub part of the data science, and this is what we do. Also, a very important part is the convincing. So when we have the business value delivered by Jonathan and his team, we still have to compare it with our business value, because our business trajectory may be a bit different than the one of airlines. It can be very high on airlines, and this is where we cooperate a lot and have forums and recurrent discussions with airlines, airports, air traffic controllers, to match again their priorities with our priorities. So this is all the things what I do. And here you see that it is a special type of innovation. It is innovation that is not invented in my team. So there it's very interesting. So I have a last slide to summarize a bit what we did and what we did in that special. I'd like to call it a success story because it was very, very, very interesting to cooperate between sites. So it started from an airline's problem. It was captured and worked on and prepared by colleagues in Paris. And after that, we leverage all the power and all the collaboration. We are in a massively cooperating environment. There is more than 100,000 people working every day in Europe to make the flights happening. So this is where we use that collaboration to set the right priority for it and turn it into a product. And once it is turned into a product, then Anne enters into the show and make sure that it actually runs 24/7, because there it goes off my hands and ends up on Anne's desk.
Indeed, thank you, Benjamin. Indeed, so the things, as Benjamin said, the things that are invented, so to speak, in Bretigny, are then industrialized by Benjamin, and then they are operated, so to speak, by my teams in the IT operations organization. So I have another project that I would like to present to you, what we are working on currently, and that's called LADER, as we say it. We like acronyms in EUROCONTROL. You will have figured that out by now. So LADER stands for Location of Aircraft in Distress Repository. Yeah, it's a very interesting project. So despite all the joint efforts that we do in the world of aviation, sadly enough, there's still some accidents that happen from time to time. One of these is the crash of the Air France flight 447 in 2009. Some of you might still remember that. It was a passenger flight going from Rio de Janeiro in Brazil to Paris in France. The aircraft had a technical issue, and the pilots received inconsistent airspeed indications, which then led them to unwillingly stall the aircraft. So the plane crashed in the Atlantic Ocean, and it killed all of the 228 passengers and crew on board. It took 2 years to recover the wreckage. Another example was a few years later, and that was in 2014. That was the Malaysian Airlines flight 370. It was also a passenger flight flying from Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia to Beijing in China. And that aircraft basically disappeared. So it disappeared and has still, until today, not been found. So all of the 227 passengers, together with the 12 crew on board, are presumed dead. And this is one of the most expensive and most costly or complex search operation in the history of aviation. And it's basically these two high-profile incidents that have caused the International Civil Aviation Organization, or the ICAO, as we call it, to decide that something needed to be done. So we need to enhance the search and recovery operations of aviation, so to speak. So they wanted to develop a new system, which they call GATS, or the Global Aeronautical Distress and Safety System. And the idea would be to develop a better tracking system for all aircraft, identifying distress situations, and then communicate to all stakeholders. So, and all of that in order to ensure, of course, that there would be a timely and lower costs rescue operation in case of accident. So the International Civil Aviation Organization did this together with the help of worldwide experts and European subject matter experts, and it was led by EUROCONTROL. So EUROCONTROL is tasked by two things. So first, there's development of the application that we call LADER, development and hosting of the application LADER, and to set up an operational control directory. That's the ops control, that's as we call it. So the idea is to place some new standalone hardware on all of the commercial airplanes, and that has started in June of this year, 2023. And this hardware will detect any distress symptoms. So it will detect any sudden drops in altitude, for example, or voltage, or sudden banking, or things like that. And then when that happens, it will transmit the data of the last known location of this aircraft via satellites to ground stations, where it will then be entered in the ladder application. And then the ladder application will distribute all this information to all the stakeholders. So the aircraft operators, the states, the ATS units, the rescue centers, and things like that. So basically, this is a project that is not only European, it's actually worldwide that we are working on this. So we are currently developing this application in EUROCONTROL. We're discussing with the development in my teams. We are discussing with the development teams to see how we're going to operate this and to make sure that all the monitoring and alerting is implemented and that all the operational procedures are ready and things like that. And we expect to go live with a first version with limited functionalities at the end of this year, so in December 2023, followed by a full version that should come in 2024. So that was my project. Back to you, Petja.
Thank you, Anne. So as you can see, when you join EUROCONTROL, you have the chance to work on some very interesting projects, but also to see the result of your work going to research and innovations, to validation, to then development, and into an operation. So we really collaborate together to this end result. And then you also have really the benefits on what we're doing in European aviation, but also some things are used worldwide, as Anne mentioned. So I hope that you can have a better idea with this presentation about what types of projects we're working on. And then our last speaker today, Elena, will tell you more about some new emerging actors such as drones, and will tell you more about U-Space as well. So Elena, back to you.
Thank you very much. So a little bit about drones and U-Space again. As you know, U-Space is something very new. And so EUROCONTROL's main role in this situation would be to enable U-Space implementation across Europe in a very harmonized and safe manner. So this is also what we are mainly, or at least my team is mainly focusing on. For those who may not know, U-Space is highly automated and digitalized concept. U-Space would be somewhat equivalent to UTM. You may have heard of this, Unmanned Traffic Management System. And U-Space is, let's say, applicable to Europe, and this has been encouraged by the European Commission. And so some of the benefits by having U-Space, just to set the scene, would be to enable BVLOS flights, so that is beyond visual line of sight flights with drones, minimize risks on persons and objects on ground, avoid collisions between manned and unmanned aircraft, of course, and of course taking into account security, privacy, safety, and environmental aspects, which is very crucial in this case because U-Space for the moment would be implemented at more low level. So this also means working together with all kinds of stakeholders like municipalities, law enforcement, not only aviation stakeholders, which makes this very unique. Because, for example, ATM, it's aviation, fully aviation focused. It's very human-centered system, whereas U-Space then is very highly automated and digitalized with a set of services provided in it. I have given an example here on the left hand side on U-Space airspace risk assessment method guidelines. This is one of the documents or let's say guidelines that we have recently published. You will find it as well if you Google it. This is the very first step if any member state wishes to let's say designate U-Space that you would need to do. You would need to do a risk assessment, which consists of preparation phase, reference scenario phase, assessment phase, and eventually you can then have the U-Space designation. These are the types of methods or guidelines that we are working on. We also, for example, U-Space concept of operations development. That's also another one. we have volume, this is volume 1, the first one, use-based airspace risk assessment method and guidelines. Then we are working on the future volume 2, for example, which would be on the assessment phase, which would be more safety focused. Yes, on the CONOPS, for example, yes, it's more setting the scene, having a description of the airspace which would be assessed, on the airspace design, roles and responsibilities, the architecture of use space, and things like that. That's also another document that will soon to be published. On the right-hand side, you can see 4 pillars that are, let's say, drones program is focusing on: research and innovation, support to states and institutional relations, which is mostly my focus, and of course simulators and tools. Jonathan already gave simulators and tools and validation. This also plays a huge and major role also in the airspace risk assessment, since there's a lack of operational data, since it's such a new concept. So we are working on all of these pillars, and if you have any questions on any of these, I'm happy to answer. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you as well, Elena. So now that you have a better understanding of EUROCONTROL, our experts' role, and also the type of projects we're working on, we'll get to your questions now. So I'll stop sharing the presentation here. Just to let you know that this presentation today is recorded, so you'll have the opportunity to rewatch again some parts of it if you would like. And now we'll get to your questions. So we have a few minutes left here, and then I'll explain you how to stay in the platform and join us in the chat booths that I mentioned earlier. So let's now see the type of questions you asked. So I see one question here from Race asking, regarding the simulations, do you use any digital environments for this, for example, digital twin technology? So for this question, I will ask my colleague Jonathan to give more detail.
Yeah, so as I said, we are simulating realistic environment, and we have for this several facilities. Depending on what you want to evaluate, we can have low or high fidelity simulations. For example, we have a simulator called Escape that is able to reproduce a fully realistic environment, air traffic control environment, with all the positions, the working positions for the controllers are highly representative to what they have. We can also adjust what the ANSP has in their own premises. For example, we did a simulation with the DHMI, the Turkish ANSP. So they were able to get exactly, or more or less, something very similar in terms of HMI, in terms of the tools they are using. It was really representative of what they are using. Also, the traffic.
It seems that we lost the connection with my colleague Jonathan. We will get back to this a little bit later. I'm just checking here if we have other questions in the chat. So about the recruiting process. Here I see that you want from A to Z. So it would be difficult here to give you really more details. We can have a chat about this later. But so just to give you an overview, we have vacancies open on our career website that are visible. So on a weekly basis, we publish new jobs. You have the opportunity here to see the new jobs in the platform. You have to officially apply, so we don't accept spontaneous applications. You have to apply to a specific vacancy or different vacancies if you think your profile match different jobs. There is a publication duration. So after the publication, you will receive a feedback if your profile matches the requirements. Some requirements are quite strict. For instance, the fact that we have 41 member states, as Anne mentioned in the beginning of the presentation. So we have this requirement to have the nationality of one of our member states. So indeed, if you don't have the nationality, unfortunately, you are not eligible for all of our positions. But indeed, this is something the system will ask you when you apply. Then there are some technical requirements as well. You will see this is very well detailed in each of our vacancies. Once you receive this feedback, if you're a qualified candidate and a suitable one, we'll invite you for any additional tests or assessments. It's very specific to each competition, and also an interview to assess your skills. And after this, you will get the final feedback regarding your application. So the process takes indeed a few months from the publication date. So don't worry if you don't have an immediate feedback, but we will of course answer to you and give you appropriate feedback at all stages of our process. So I hope this answers at least partially to your question. You can join us in the booth after to discuss more about the processes. I see that Jonathan is back now. So Jonathan, do you still want to tell us more about your answer and final answer?
I'm very sorry. That's so unfortunate. My Wi-Fi just died, so now I'm on a mobile hotspot. So where it closed, where it stopped. But as I said, we are trying to simulate as environment as realistic as possible. We can do several things. So depending on what we want to assess, we can go for low or high fidelity. And when we are having a simulation with a specific ANSP, we are trying to mimic to have the same tools, the same HMI, the same look and feel they have with their own tools. So it's really similar. And we will simulate some traffic. The traffic will be super close to reality, as realistic as possible, because it will be based on historical data and actual traffic. The aircraft performance will be actually based on the actual aircraft performance. So the flights will behave exactly like a normal flight would do. And for example, if we are working on air traffic flow and capacity management area, we are able to work with actual real traffic in shadow mode. So basically, we will have all the flight list that is currently available at the specific time, and all the regulations, the ETFCM regulations, and we can work on that. We can we can create new regulation, modify them, delete them, without affecting the operations. We are really in shadow mode. So basically, it's really, we are duplicating the reality to have the most realistic environment.
Thank you very much, Jonathan. I see that it's already 1 o'clock, but as we started with a few minutes delay, we'll still take 2 or 3 questions here to answer, and then we'll leave you enough time to go, each one of you, in the booth, and I'll explain how to go there. But before that, I would like to answer still 1 or 2 questions here. For instance, Daniel asking, what are the expected technical and technological changes over the 5-10 years? And what are the main challenges that EUROCONTROL is facing with that respect? Well, I guess this is quite a lot of things to say there, but maybe Anne, or Benjamin, if you want to say anything about this.
Should I? Well, we could.
You start, and then I complement if you haven't read my mind.
So I think there's a lot of course, a lot of technological challenges. I already mentioned in part of the in the presentation in the beginning that we are not only have we built a new building, but we're also modernizing all of our mission critical systems. So there's of course the journey to cloud and the cloud technologies and all the evolutions. We need to make our applications more scalable, make them more modern in all the modern technologies. So there's a huge program called INM that's currently ongoing. and that is actually doing that on the mission critical systems. And then Benjamin, what can you add?
Well, there is that maintaining and performing mission critical operation and services while you do not have the computer. So basically, when your telephone breakdowns, like it happened to Jonathan, paf, you don't have your IT infrastructure at all. So how do you manage safely? Because the sky is full already. So how do you scale down to a manageable amount? Like the sky is, you can manage a sky with a few airplanes and just speaking on the VHF, on the radio. That is okay. But how do you move from a sky that is completely full and you need the full-blown technology to a sky that is manageable only with the comms? And the other part is, of course, the AI, and how can you trust an AI? How can you trust a software that each time you ask will tell you something different? And also, how can you delegate tasks to the machines? So you will have the humans performing high-value tasks, the task that the AI cannot do, and the AI will be able to do the repetitive task for now. But then of course it will grow. But how do you set the limit? Where do you set the cursor? How will the human react to that? And how will the machine react to this? So all these interactions, and the fact that you have also that you want to know why the AI took that decisions. So all these on top of the clouds are the challenges that at least we are facing with Anne.
Okay, thank you very much for this answer. So now I would suggest that we move to the specific booth. Before you leave here the live streaming, I'll just explain you how to do. I see that there are some more specific questions about the project, but I would recommend that each one of you go to the specific booth, and then you can have actually a direct one-on-one chat with Anne, Benjamin, Elina, and Jonathan. So how does it work? When you leave the live streaming here, you'll see different booths. As I mentioned in the beginning, one is the ATM, the other one is the tech booth. I see here some are wondering, do they go to the one or the other? You can actually go to both. The only thing is that you have to queue for a booth. So you'll see that maybe some other people are already inside and you have to wait for a few minutes. But in 1 hour, we hope to get the chance to chat with as many people as possible. It will be either written chat or video. This will be decided with each speaker. And in the meantime, you can also join us. There will be 2 coffee booths, which are more general HR questions with the talent acquisition team. So I'll be in one of those booths, and then my colleague will join as well. It will be actually a group interaction. So there will be several people, and we try to answer more general questions indeed linked to recruitment or anything you would like to know about EUROCONTROL. So I'll suggest now that we leave this booth here. And if you have any issue going to one booth or the other, or you don't know how it works, there is also a help desk booth that you can access, and you can find some help there. So thank you very much for joining. For those who cannot stay, thank you very much for attending the presentation. You will share the recording of it for you to rewatch if you want, or to reshare. And for those who want to stay, you are very welcome to join us in the booths. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, guys. See you in the booth. ATM booth.
Bye.
Thank you.